A long-awaited day in the history of the Canadian Premier League has finally arrived. The Canadian Premier League, after 7 years, is finally going to Quebec. FC Supra Du Quebec was announced last night, the first Canadian Premier League team in Quebec, playing in Laval at Stade Boreal, has been announced to start play in the 2026 season. Since the Canadian Premier League was announced, everyone knew that a Quebec team had to happen eventually. And honestly, I think most people are shocked at how long it took, but everyone knows it is difficult to go into Quebec. You need a right set of circumstances. And with the CPL especially, it's hard to expand for soccer. There's not a lot of facilities around the country, and the CPL as a league isn't in a place yet where it's really worth a team building a brand new stadium from scratch to move into. So far, only Vancouver, Halifax, and Calgary have built stadiums for themselves, and in the cases of Halifax and Vancouver, it was fields that already existed that they just added stands to, and in Calgary's case, it was a show horse stadium that they converted into a soccer stadium. So no one has actually built anything for the Canadian Premier League. And so we needed a correct set of circumstances to allow Montreal expansion to happen. And part of that came in the form of the Northern Super League and the Montreal Roses, as the Montreal Roses converted an already established soccer complex into having a stadium there in Stade Boreal. And once that stadium was built, I think everyone knew it was only a matter of time before an ownership group put a Canadian Premier League team there. And that ownership group comprises of Matt Rosetta and Angelo Pasto, who own a couple of soccer teams over in Italy and also Brooklyn FC in the USL, Stéphane Chatrol, who's the owner of GameStop Canada, and Jean-Francois Chanel. So decent amount of money behind this team, and also soccer team running experience, which are both very important things for a Canadian Premier League team to survive. So we have a team moving into Montreal Roses' stadium, and honestly, that's good. I mean, this was a very easy move for the CPL into Quebec. You have a already built stadium that is the correct size for you and has established that for the Women's League they have 3,000 people a game coming out. So what are the cautionary flags? Well, this is the CPL's third attempt to move into an MLS market. We already have York United playing in Toronto, rumors that they actually might rebrand soon again, and Vancouver FC playing outside of Vancouver. Neither of those teams have been super successful. York United, notably, obviously originally was York 9, rebranded, was sold off, and now are kind of just chugging along, hoping to pick up some sort of steam. And Vancouver FC also, those two teams are the two worst teams in the league for attendance this season. With this Supra Du Quebec team, we have the worry again that maybe an established MLS market isn't the most hungry for a CPL team, as both the CPL teams in MLS markets don't seem to be doing too well. And the flip side of that is CF Montreal and their ultras seem to have a more tumultuous relationship compared to Toronto FC and their biggest supporters, or Vancouver and their biggest supporters. However, the past couple of years, Toronto FC have been not great, and it hasn't boosted York United's attendance at all, despite the fact that the Toronto FC average attendance has fallen by several thousand people a game. Now, Supra de Montreal, of course, taking the old Montreal Supra name. For those of you who don't know, the Montreal Supra played from 1988 to 1992 in the old Canadian Soccer League, the professional soccer league in Canada before the Canadian Premier League. So they are trying to lean into some historical ties to the city and the region, but it remains to be seen how well they'll be able to capture an audience in a city that already has an MLS team. Now, of course, comparing it to York and Vancouver, York has had ownership turnover, and Vancouver, you can say that their ownership group hasn't been solely focused on Vancouver FC, as they also own Pacific FC. So with this ownership group that has experience running professional soccer teams around the world, you could argue that they are in a better position to actually succeed with their knowledge and experience than York or Vancouver were. I'm also a little interested as to why they're going with Supra Du Quebec. That's a little concerning to me. Does that mean that the CPL is seeing this as their only team in Quebec? Obviously, Quebec City, they had the CPL on tour game in Quebec City this year, and that was massively successful, and everyone has been saying Quebec City would be perfect for a CPL team. It's the biggest city in Canada that doesn't have a professional sports team. So that would make a lot of sense for the CPL to at one point move into Quebec City, and fingers crossed, hopefully, this team being named Supra Du Quebec is not an indicator that the CPL sees this team as the only time they will go to Quebec ever. I mean, ideally and realistically, the CPL should have 2 teams in Quebec pretty quickly. They should have a Montreal team and they should have a Quebec City team. Those are 2 pretty major cities to go into if you're making a professional sports league in Canada. The fact that it took this long to get a play team in one of those 2 places is shocking. And Quebec obviously has its own problems where like you basically would have to build your own stadium from scratch, but I don't see how a team in Quebec City doesn't become successful just with the fact that there really is not that much going on there in terms of professional sports. So you get the team in a good location, good backing, you could very easily have a Halifax Wanderers situation where that city really gets behind that team. Now Montreal does make sense. It's easier, you have the stadium pre-built, you have an easier ability to get ownership, you have a larger audience that you could potentially reach. There is just the issue that there is the MLS team already there, and so you are directly fighting with a team that plays in a more prestigious league for fans. But honestly, overall, I'm very hopeful for this team. I think that it is going to be a very interesting experiment for the Canadian Premier League, and I genuinely hope that they can make this work because more teams is always good. And honestly, I hope that this team is successful. This league does not need another York, Valor, Vancouver type team where you watch them every week and the attendance looks dire. This league needs another Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, Hamilton, another team like that where it's just 4,000 plus people every week, packed stands and great atmosphere that everyone can see. That's what this league needs, and I pray that Montreal can give us that. It is a risk because the other 2 attempts at the MLS cities have not gone swimmingly, but Montreal could be different, and honestly, with everything I've seen, I don't think that the CPL would be jumping into putting a team in Montreal just for the sake of putting a team in Montreal if they didn't truly believe in the ownership group, if they didn't truly believe in the stadium location, if they didn't truly believe that this team could be successful and could build a significant fan base in that city. So, next season when the CPL kicks off for 2026, there will be 9 teams. It's exciting times for soccer in Canada as the league continues to expand. Fingers crossed this team can come out and be a success story. So, that's it for this video. As always, if you'd like to hit like if you want to see more stuff, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.